What's going on, everyone? This is Sheets, and we're going to be taking a look at the UFC card that's being fought out at the Apex this weekend, Saturday, 4 p.m. start time. And we are going to look at this from a DFS perspective. And we are doing this on the earlier side, just because I have time to do it today, and I won't have as much time to do it tomorrow. Um, we'll talk about the fights, talk about who looks good from a DFS perspective. And again, I keep promising this, but I've been running out of time to do these things. I'd love to do a separate video specifically dedicated to lineup construction, but just I don't have what do the kids say? I'm finding difficult to find the bandwidth to do that, but I'm going to try. So in uh, uh, so in place of that, I'm going to go into a little more depth with respect to the lineup construction aspects of the analysis today. So first, let's take a look at the card in general. So it's a 13-fight slate, which means that it's right in the sweet spot of the size needed to have a good GPP build. In other words, you should be able to build lineups that are not that, wild, and still have a chance to compete for some very low duped prizes. Um, Once you get into 11 fights, then it becomes a little bit sketchy. And when you get up to 14, then it becomes even easier. But the other thing you have to consider is if there's going to be some massive chalk. Like even if there's a 13-fight card, if there's one bit of massive chalk, then it becomes sort of on the fishy side. Now, chalk can come in a lot of different ways, but the chalk that I'm kind of referring to are those kind of real mispriced fighters. If someone had these salaries already priced and you had a replacement fighter and one guy just had, you were getting like an $8,000 price tag of someone who's like minus 300. That is just chalk. That is just almost impossible to fade. So it makes playing GPPs a little bit more challenging. It kind of tests you to be a good lineup constructor and also to use anti-dupe medication and things like that, which is totally down for that, but it's just a little more aggravating. The other thing you need to look at is what the 5-round main event looks like with respect to chalkiness. In other words, if the main event is going to be very, very difficult to fade, then again it makes the GPP aspect of the card a little bit worse. And as we'll get to, it's going to be a very difficult main event to fade. I mean, you have that really, really, mid-range pricing, and you have two fighters who are extraordinarily active. So it's going to be difficult to fade that one, I believe, and we'll talk about it when we get there. So I say that from a GPP perspective, it's probably a 6.5, maybe, out of 10 with respect to how good of a GPP card is. And again, good is in the eye of the beholder. I actually kind of enjoy sometimes when it's an 11-fight card where I have to get a little bit crazy and use more advanced techniques. But as far as like for most people, I give this a kind of a 6.5. You could probably play good lineups and compete for, sub 10 duped, prizes without going too bananas. We'll take a look at that main event when we get there, but let's just start with right from the bottom. Salida Alencar versus Ariane Carnelossi. Now, normally when you have a 9K fighter, again, you usually need to have an inside the distance line of about minus 110 or so to make it viable just on the, inside the distance line. And you won't find too many of those in women's fights anyway. So Alencar's inside the distance line is extraordinarily poor for her price. If that were the only thing that mattered. But as we've discussed many, many times, and as it's been played out in the last several cards, inside the distance is not the end of the story. Like if you have a lot of wrestling upside where you can get takedowns and top control and things like that, you could score an incredible amount of points. We saw it last week. I mean, Hamdi, to illustrate this point, this difference between DFS fighting and regular fighting is he scored one of the top 10, I think, DFS scores of the year with his 150-point performance, and it was good enough to get him cut by the UFC. Because what's exciting for DFS players is not necessarily what's exciting for UFC watchers. That being a lot of takedowns and control time. More to the point, you had that co-main event between Mackenzie Dern and Verna Jandidova, and Verna actually had more points in the loss than Dern did in the win because of all of her takedown and control time. She was, I think, the second highest scorer on the whole card behind Hamdi with her 124 points. So this takedown upside is for real. So Alan Carr does have a path, given this matchup, to score a lot of points in the with the wrestling. And Ariane Carnelossi is extraordinarily poor with her takedown defense. So if Alan Carr decides to go for that, this could end up being like one of those fights where she gets a bunch of takedowns and all kinds of control time, and maybe even some ground and pound and things like that. Like in Carnelossi's last fight, it shows here a victory on the cards, but only because Pierre Rodriguez got disqualified. I mean, Pierre Rodriguez was on track to scoring a ton of fantasy points against her, and she's very, very prone to give them up. So I think that even though you have a lack of inside the distance line for Alan Carr, I think that she's pretty viable here. As far as Carnelossi goes, again, when you deal with underdogs, there's two ways to kind of analyze these. Well, not two, there's several ways, but it's very rare that an underdog in and of themselves is going to look that great because they have, they don't have great winning chances. But if you do have some good money line value, that's fine. And also, if you have an underdog that's facing a very popular favorite, then you got to give them a little bit of a bump because when they get their win, they also get leverage against all those lineups that had the favorite. And also, obviously, there are other things that go into making good underdogs, like having good upside and things like that. But the problem with the Carnelossi play is that I don't think that Alan Carr is going to be particularly popular. So when you get that Carnelossi win, which is going to happen every like 33% of the time, I don't even know if you're going to get that much headway against the Alan Carr owners because there aren't going to be that many of them. Now, with that said, I mean, I will say that Carnelossi at 2-1, it's a pretty good money line, like for her price. So when you're playing like 150 max, I think you're going to get to her, and I think that you're just going to kind of have to. It reminded me of that of the play this past week, actually. That I forgot what her name was, but that Japanese woman who smashed the slate really at 6,800. And I mentioned it that her win odds were actually not bad. I mean, her win odds were like 30%, and she was owned about 8. And so even those times that she won, she was probably going to look pretty good on the board. And she was going against Amarim, who was going to get some ownership. So I thought that she was actually a pretty good play just on her money line. I didn't have the optimal, but I was pretty close. And Carnelossi is like very similar to that. I mean, I don't think her money line, I think she wins often enough to, pay off her price and to pay off her ownership and things like that. So I actually don't mind this. All right, Seung-Young Ko versus Philip Rowe. This is not particularly analysis, but Seung-Young Ko is the freaking truth. I mean, like he went in against Oban Elliott as an enormous underdog and just tooled on it. I mean, like that fight was not even remotely close. And sometimes you get these underdogs come in and get some flash knockout, some meme knockout, or some meme sub the first round. You don't even know what the hell just happened. In that particular fight, it was even more devastating because it was 3 rounds of domination. Okay, and he was legit good, and I am a believer. So there's no way that I'm playing Philip Rowe against this dude. Okay, like Seung-Young Ko is still kind of a name that people don't know, and Philip Rowe is just coming off of this pretty absurd actually comeback. I mean, he was getting just obliterated by Angelusa. And Angelusa, you can just see also at the end of the second round, just completely ran out of gas. and Phil Rowe just kind of took over in the third. But Philip Rowe can always be taken down, and I think that Young Ko is a very, very strong play here. We'll take a look at the inside the distance line just for the hell of it, but I can't imagine it's that good. Ko inside the distance plus 220. I mean, not the end of the world, but certainly not great. But I think that plus his takedown upside, I think it puts him, squarely in play here. So I actually do like him a bit. And I'm not a big fan of Phil Rowe in general. I don't, I think that last fight, I don't want to say it was a fluke, but I just can't see it. And I know that's not the greatest analysis in the world, but look, if you look at the inside the distance line, it's not particularly great either. And I mean, his money line's okay. This is the price, like plus one set, 175, I guess. It's VIG adjusted. Let's see. Row inside plus 320. I guess that's not terrible. Am I gonna have to play him? I mean, I'd rather not. So I'll just say this. So in 3 max and below, no chance. In 20 max and below, no chance. I guess in 150, you're gonna have to get to him, but I'm certainly not a big fan of it. All right, Alice Ardeline versus Montserrat Ruiz. I wonder how owned Ardeline is going to be because I don't think the inside the distance line is going to be great. I bet you it's going to be minus, I mean, it's like plus like 170 or something. Let's just take a look. Ardeline inside, not even like plus 250. But I tell you this, like Montserrat Ruiz has a ton of quit in her. Like she's going to try for her judo throws, which she's actually pretty good at. But if she's not getting them, I mean, she's going to get blasted in this fight. And Ardeline, I'm pretty sure in her last fight, I mean, she put up like a ton of significant strikes. I mean, let's look at this for a minute. I mean, 154 significant strikes. Yikes. And including a takedown and a reversal is a big underdog. I mean, yeah, I mean, the two before that were certainly no good, but this is a perfect recipe for her, I think. So I don't think people are going to play her, and I think that she can get takedowns of her own here and really tool on this girl. So I actually think that this is another kind of nice low-owned play here between her and Alan Carr. I think that neither of them are going to get more than 20%. We'll see about that, but I don't think so. I mean, there's all kinds of like great, much better favorites here, which we're going to get to. So I think low-owned pieces, I think that Ardeline is really, really not bad. And Ruiz, I really hope that I don't have to play her. Let's see what that money line is. Please be like 4-1 or something, so I can make the case that she doesn't win often enough. Okay, great. Doesn't win often enough. Ardeline's not going to be popular, so we don't have to play Ruiz. All right, moving on. Up the card. Norma Dumont versus Caitlin Vieira. I think that Vieira might end up being, I don't want to say a very popular underdog, but I think a reasonably popular underdog. I mean, she's got some fights where she has takedowns. She was able to beat Macy Chiasson in a weird clinch fest, I guess. No takedowns, but 10 minutes of control time. She doesn't really score all that well, though. I don't know. Maybe this fight's just a fade. I mean, you look at the inside the distance line. I know that Dumont's not going to look good at all. Yeah, I mean, plus 600 is the favorite. So, yeah, this fight's a fade. I mean, it's a bad combination for Vieira. I mean, she doesn't look that great on her own, and Dumont doesn't have the popularity to bring in the leverage aspect of it. So, I think this fight's probably a fade. All right, Dante Johnson versus Cedric Dumas. So Johnson plus 350 and Dumas, and his price is what, 9,200? 9,200, so that's reasonable enough. And when you look at the inside the distance line, let me see. I'm sure it's going to be huge. Yeah, you have Dante Johnson. Inside the distance is minus 230. All right. So this is literally like your classic must play spot. You have a very reasonable price for this metric. 9,200 and minus 230 inside the distance. Even you look at round one here, I bet you there's something decent. Johnson round one minus 110. I mean that is elite stuff. And in your low risk or whatever, in your cash lineups or whatever it is, like this is one of two guys that you're going to want to put in your lineups right away. Now, bear with me a second. You always need, and I say this a lot. I mean, every one of these videos, when you have somebody that has such logical and easy metrics to gravitate towards, you must consider the opponent. Okay, in GPPs, that is the way you build leverage in MMA. It's not like football or basketball where to get leverage you play somebody similar. In MMA, you get direct leverage by this is ultimate negative correlation. This is like tennis. Okay, if Johnson loses, you want the winner. Okay, you want the winner because of how great Johnson is going to look. And then he's not going to win every time. He's just not. And in the fights that he loses, you're going to get what? I think that he's going to be one of the two most popular non-main event fighters on the board. We'll get to the other one relatively soon. Maybe not that soon, actually. Where is he? A little while later. But Dante Johnson is certainly going to be competing for top ownership. So you have to consider the opponent here. And the good thing about this one is that Cedric Dumas is literally the most hated fighter in the United States. Okay. He's got, I mean, just look him up. He's got just terrible personal problem issues. He's like dropped out of fights and whatever it is. And ain't nobody, put my English major to use. Ain't nobody going to play him except for me. I'm just going to have to. And whatever I get of him, well, again, we're going to just throw those lineups into the fire, I guess. But the fact is he is going to win the fight as much as you don't want to hear it. He's going to win the fight about 25% of the time. I mean, this guy's a minus 350 and Dumas is plus 85. So about 25% of the time, Dumas is going to win, whether you believe it or not. And in those 25% of the times, you are taking out a 40% owned fighter. And that's what you want. So I think Dumas, and both sides of this fight, you should be playing. Obviously, Johnson is one of the best plays on the slate, if not the best play on the slate. But Dumas is obvious leverage that I'm telling you that if you really want to learn how to play DFS, UFC, these are the plays you're just going to have to make. All right. Chung Ho Lee versus Timothy Kwamba. Pick-em-ish fight. Kwamba actually a little bit of a favorite, but the line is bad. I mean, look at this. No, we have Kwamba at minus 8,500. I mean, he's 8,500, but he's only like minus 118. That's no good. That's going to be bad money line value. In addition to that, his inside the distance line is poor. I mean, he might end up being a full fade. Chung-Hyo Lee is a little bit more aggressive, I guess. So I guess him with his money line value is going to make him a pretty decent low risk play. So yeah, I don't mind that. Again, it's not going to be the greatest leverage in the world because Kwamba is not going to be that popular, but I think Lee is pretty good in cashy type lineups. I don't think he's bad at all. So I would say Kwamba would be a fade and Lee would be pretty decent. Okay, Billy Elakina versus Kevin Christian. I'm very curious to see what this money line, this inside the distance line is. I'm going to tell you why after I look at it. Elakina inside Actually, minus 115. That's very surprising to me because he is like very low volume. Okay. And he's low volume. He actually likes to counter from backing up. And those types of guys are usually not the greatest DFS players, DFS fighters. So according to the metrics, he's going to look pretty good here. I mean, at minus 115 at, 8,900. I mean, that's really, really strong. Um, for some reason, I just don't, I honestly don't believe it, but I think too many of his finishes might be in rounds 2 and 3, I guess, because of his low volume, because of his style. I mean, he doesn't like come after you really early, so I don't know. I'm a little suspicious of this one. We'll see what his ownership comes in. The metrics look great, but I think there's probably more to this minus 110 that meets the eye. Let's look at this. Let's look at this round one, for example. So round one is plus 300, and that's really what you're going to need with a pure striker anyway. So I don't know. I'm going to table this guy for now. I'm going to say he's more of a fade than a play. But aside from that, we'll take a look at this, I guess, later in the week. But I would say that he's one of the weaker favorites. How about that? Kevin Christian, on the other hand, plus 240, not the greatest money line in the world for his price. Well, let's go back to these others that we talked about earlier. Let me just see something. Carnelosi's like plus 200. I prefer Carnelosi, I guess. I'm thinking Alencar's not going to be too popular. I mean, when you're talking about playing Kevin Christian, you're really, I think, on the low end of who you're supposed to be playing in 20 max, for example. You'll probably get to him in 150 just because you get everybody, but I definitely wouldn't prioritize this fight at all, either Elikana or Christian. All right, Alan Nascimento versus Cody Durden. Ooh, they don't even have the metrics out on this one yet, do they? Yeah, so boy, you have Nascimento minus 9,100. That certainly seems expensive. And Cody Durden, I mean, that's say he's done some good things, but I guess not recently. But he does go for takedowns like every single fight. So, I mean, we know what he's going to try to do, and that Nascimento is probably a better grappler than he is. But the thing is, when you play like someone like Nascimento at 9,100, you don't have a lot of room for error if you're going to get taken down. You know what I mean? Like if you are going to get taken down and you're 9,100, that's a lot to get through. You got to fight off the takedown and then get either a first round sub somehow, or just be better and get him in the second round. I think in either case, I'm not a big fan of his metrics here in this spot. So I'm probably going to be on the fade side of Nascimento. Boy, you kind of have to play some Durden only because if in fact he does win, and that's going to happen, 33% of the time. I promise you this: he ain't winning and not getting on the optimal. Okay, he's going to get takedowns, and he might even get a finish. Is that going to happen? I don't know, but yeah, you know when it's going to happen? About 33% of the time. Something like that. So I do think that in a weird way, if you had me play one of these guys from this fight, it would probably be the Durden side. Because I know that Durden's wins always are going to be there in the optimal, where Nascimento could very well, score 80. It's very possible. So that's my thought over there. Probably not much Nascimento. Durden probably preferred. All right, you have Charles Radke versus Daniel Frunza. Minus 160, plus 140. And I guess a little bit of money line value on Frunza, I suppose, at 7,500. But forget that. I mean, this should be a kind of a firefight. I mean, you look at the inside the distance lines here, they're both going to be really, really good. You got Radke plus 200, and even Frunza plus 220. Boy, I thought that Radke would have a better inside the distance line, but the good thing about Radke is that he also has some wrestling to fall back on. So I think that makes him viable, not viable. I think it makes him a pretty strong play. I don't know. You know what I mean? Like, remember, for Radke to get there, he's got to either get that inside the distance line covered or have the parlay of going for of deciding to go for takedowns, having them work, and having them work well enough to win. Okay, so what I think Radke is okay, but he's not as great as I thought he was going to be. As a matter of fact, I kind of think that Franz is the better player. I mean, he's plus 220 inside, and at his price, 7,500. This is very, very reasonable. So I do think Radke's fine, but I think actually I prefer Frunza here. Yeah, let's get rid of some of these guys who don't want to play. I don't want to play Elikana. These guys all look good. Lee's, yeah, he's fine, but he's more of a whatchamacallit, a cashy type player. Let's put Cohen for now. These guys all look pretty good. All right. All right, this is gonna be, I mean, to me, like this is easy. For those that don't find this easy, I mean, you will. I mean, you will eventually. So let's look at Isaac Dolgarian versus what's his name? Yadir Del Val. So it takes 1 second to look at this dude and to watch his fights and to see that this is the guy that you're going to want to play. You know, he's a all-American D1 wrestler. Ding, ding, ding. Right? He comes out super duper aggressive, as in the Francis Marshall fight, as in the Christian Rodriguez fight. Like he had Christian Rodriguez dead in the first round, and he just beat on him so badly that he gassed out. And then he ended up losing. Yeah, pretty close decision, I guess, but got 7 takedowns and all this stuff. So, and then he comes back against Murat and gets 2 takedowns and all kinds of control time and 125 points and all the good stuff, right? So he's going to come out and do this the same. So at 9,100, I mean, this is the guy that you're going to want to play. This is the guy that everybody's going to want to play. I mean, what's typically inside the distance line? I bet you that's not bad either. I mean, minus 105 plus wrestling plus all this. I mean, this is what you're after. However, he's only going to win the fight 66% of the time. And that means that Yadir is going to win the fight 33% of the time. And I will tell you this, that you know what Yadir's wins look like? They look like really good for us, okay? Because it's going to involve Dolgarian fading and Yadir taking over. And here's something that maybe you guys don't know, that Yadir is a very good grappler in and of his own right. You know, I might just kind of trot out a betting breakdown just so that I can get this one in. But if you guys don't hear from me before that, I don't know what the price is going to be, but it's got to be $1 billion to 1. If you wanted to play Yadir, I know it's want to be specific, Yadir round 3 or round 2 sub, it's going to be $1 billion to 1, and I'm totally doing it. Okay. Not to mention the fact that we're certainly going to be playing Devalle in GPPs. And Isaac Dolgarian will be hugely popular. I don't know if he's going to be as. I think him and Johnson are going to be fighting for the most popular fighter on the slate. That's not in the main event. Well, actually, I would say that probably more so than the main event because you don't know which one you're going to take in the main event. That's at least going to be split up. I think that it doesn't matter. Like you have to play both those guys, Johnson and Dolgarian, and you certainly have to play the other sides. All right, Jeremiah Wells versus Themba Gorimbo. Yes, that's my comment on this fight. It's fine. You know what I mean? It's just fine. Oh, we're gonna get to another one in a minute. Oops, forgot about the heavyweight fight. Let's look at the inside the distance line here. First, let's take a look at the prices. Jeremiah Wells 7,800, Gorimbo 84. Looks reasonable. So the inside the distance line, it's probably plus 300 each. Actually, not bad. I mean, both guys plus 240. when you think about that, like Wells as the underdog has the better inside the distance line. So I guess that sort of makes him the better play. Garimbo has some takedowns of his own, though. I think they're both fine. I mean, I don't know what to say. I mean, they're certainly not priorities, but in 150 max, I have no problem with you playing. I don't want to outright fade these two dudes, but I just think there's better upside fights. I just do. So I think both Wells and Garimbo. I think that if I had to say, I guess Wells would just have to be the better play because there's better inside the distance line. I guess that's fair. All right. So you get all the way to this heavyweight fight. And I mean, maybe I spoke too soon with respect to the one of the more popular fighters because you have Ante Delija, who you see already, he's got a money line of minus 135, and he's actually the underdog on DraftKings as far as their salaries goes already. That makes him a good play. But then you look at his inside the distance line. I mean, ouch, like plus 200 inside at that price is just very, very difficult to fade. Okay. Not to mention like how just, hashtag good he looked in his first fight against Taipura. I mean, he's going to come right after Acosta. So he is going to be another very, very popular and probably for good reason, dude. So, like for example, let's take stock of what we have here. I mean, this, and this. These are three super duper strong plays. So, what does that mean? Okay, you're with me already. You're gonna hate it, but you're gonna have to play Cortez Acosta. His money line's a little fishy. His inside the distance line is probably a little fishy. I'll bet you it's plus 300 at best. Let's see. Costa inside plus not bad, actually. Not plus 300, plus 240, depending where you look. That's not terrible. But you're getting leverage, and you're just going to have to try it. So, again, these three fights are all very similar. Bulgarian fight, Johnson fight, and the Delija fight. If I had to rank them, like which one is the best of the favorites and which one's the best of the underdogs, it's just kind of hard to say. I really think that all three of them are identical in different ways. You know what I mean? And I think they're all going to get jammed. I guess technically Duvalier probably has more upside than Dumas, or I don't know. I think they're all the same. I think that all three of these guys are going to have to face first round attacks from these guys, and all goes well, take over second and third. So all three of their upsides are not the greatest, but because of the leverage, I think all three of them are just incredible GPP plays. All right. So main event. I mean, what can I say? Just total freaking stone banger. You have two super aggressive fighters. Neither of them are particularly great defensively. And they get 5 rounds to work on killing each other. I mean, like this, you just have to jam this fight. There's just no way this doesn't get there. How does the winner of this fight not end up on the optimal? I don't know. Maybe an eye poke from last week, get the no contest. But aside from that, I mean, I guess the good thing, I don't even say the good thing. It's the over 1.5 is like it's almost pick 'em. So you might not even need the 5 rounds. You probably won't even need the 5 rounds, but just in case there's no knockout in the first round and a half, too, you have those extra rounds to get there. And these prices is just too strong. So you're going to have to play one. I have no idea which one you're supposed to play. I mean, Onama maybe has more wrestling. Who knows? They're just going to come after each other. It's going to be a great fight. And you're going to have it in your lineups. So, as I kind of mentioned, before, what kind of GPP slate is this? I mean, there are 13 fights, and I promise you that these 3 guys, plus someone from the main event, are going to dominate the lineups. Okay. So if you play this way, this is not the way to win the GPP. Okay. the only way you can play this way and win the big cheese is legitimately playing, I mean, maybe the two lowest owned fighters on the board, like down here in these last two spots. Um, or just or just losing a ton of salary, you know, by saving some salary down there. Because this build is going to be just duped throughout all of eternity. Okay. So what you should be really doing is playing these three guys. Okay. Devalier, Cortez, Dumas, and hope that one of them wins. Because if they do, you are really in business. Okay. That's going to be my advice, I guess. So either don't play these three guys together, even though they're the three best plays, right? I know you guys are going to think I'm crazy, right? But they're definitely the three best plays plus the main event. But in GPPs, you do this combination. You're fighting with yourself. I mean, you're fighting with so many people that even if you're right, you don't even win that much. So that's my advice heading into this slate. Again, maybe we'll do a betting breakdown at some point. Maybe we'll do a lineup construction video, but I'm pretty confident in this analysis. Good luck, everybody.